If you'd all please rise, Pete Miller is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead us in the invocation. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, you are our protector, provider, and Lord of our lives. In your infinite wisdom and love, you have created mankind in your image, capable of amazing acts of generosity, love, peace, kindness, goodness, and gentleness, each of which you bestow on us this evening. As beneficiaries of your grace, we thank you, and we hearken your call to turn to you and humbly accept your benevolence, wisdom, and guidance. Father, we live in challenging times, and only in such times can we know the true metal from which we were cast. Will we snap under the temptation of personal gain, weakly fall under a heavy burden, succumb to false accusations, or even yield to mere ignorance? Will we consider a path of violence against our brothers or hearken to the siren's call of self and selflessness? Let us say no. It is only when we keep our eyes on you that our faith abounds, even in difficult times. Father, please strengthen us for times such as these. May we turn to you in our prayers so that we can overcome difficult times and hear your truth as we rely on your strength and not our own. May we turn to you in our prayers to discover the hidden answers have been revealed as truths to us. May we turn to you in our prayers and become the men and women you called for us to be. Father, today we gather across communities to vote for area, state, and national leaders. We humbly ask that you bless our community, state, and nation with these that will have the power so that they will rest in you, that we may submit to your will. May we be blessed by your good and faithful servants. Father, help us in our nation, state, and local provisions to have the men and women called by you for the difficult task at hand. Please continue your umbrella of protection for the first responders across our community, state, and nation. Please continue to protect the members of our community and prepare us for this moment for future challenges as they may come. Finally, we call on you to share with the many public servants here this evening your patience, wisdom, and judgment on each of the items before us this evening, and may our thoughts, words, and deeds be only those that you would have us pursue. Please continue to protect, preserve, and prosper our community, state, and nation. Amen. Item 3.1, citizens to be heard. There are no citizens to be heard. Brings us to item number 4. Buddy, City Council comments.
Happy Fiesta. Welcome, everyone.
Maggie.
Hello, everyone. We hope glad to see everyone here and watching us in the comfort of home. We hope you enjoyed our fabulous Arbor Day event the weekend before last. We had more folks than we do. Than I think we had hot dogs for. Did we run out of hot dogs? They were very good. Everything was nice. The birds, the raptors behaved themselves, except for the one who got lost for a while, but he came back. We hope you enjoyed our event. It's going to be even better for our next one, which is the 4th of July, Independence Day, and on and on. So, thank you, and listen carefully to us tonight. We got a lot of interesting information to talk. Thank you.
Conrad.
I'd like to welcome everybody here, and Arbor Day was a really great success, and thank you for putting it on.
Pete.
Yeah, so I wanted to thank Judge Remy for his service to our city over the past years. So his dedication to fairness and integrity and the well-being of our city has made a lasting impact. We deeply appreciate his wisdom and his leadership, in upholding justice and guiding our community with care. Also, I want to reiterate Maggie's thanks, and I want to thank our staff, the Chavano Park women, and the Tree Committee for all their efforts in making Arbor and Earth Day a big success. And I think it's important to remember that, you know, the reason that we do this, I know we've got a lot of fun, but the reason that we do it is because these events play a vital role in bringing our community together. They foster connections, and they also strengthen our community. And that's why we do them. So,
Thank you, Pete. Lee?
Having worked and lived in other cities and mostly work in public safety, one form or another, I'm very happy that I live where I live in a town like this, where the staff is so incredibly good at what they do, and a council that gets along where it could have gone other ways in other times. And I'm appreciative of anybody that attends these meetings or watches it later on as a recording. Please feel free to involve yourself in your government and run for office. Some of us may not stay in this for very long. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, brings us to item number 5, presentations, commendations, and announcements. Item 5.1, proclamation 2025 Cardboard Kids. We have a national problem, child abuse. And as a community, until a absolutely amazing member of our staff joined us, we failed to pay attention to the 300,000 children who have abusive relationships in Texas. And I want to thank Brenda for bringing this to us. And since Brenda has joined us, we have turned to April every year to recognize it as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Brenda, if you would come forward and accept this proclamation as a very humble token of our community. And I believe you have a few words to say about the cardboard children in our community.
Well, thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council. The City of Chavano Park participates in the Cardboard Kids program, which is ChildSafe's public awareness initiative to draw attention to the pervasiveness of child abuse. Each cardboard kid represents one of thousands of abused children in the San Antonio metropolitan region. Please allow me to introduce the 2025 City of Chavano Park Cardboard Kids. So from my left to my right, and I have the kids here in front of the dais. From the Public Works and Water Departments, we have Bat Boy. So during the day, little Billy Wayne uses his immense wealth to create charities for kids in need. At night, he defends children from villains, and he kicks serious bad guy Donkey. The Chavano Park Fire Department presents Lieutenant Linda. Now, don't be misled by her pretty pink bunker gear. She wears this pink uniform on purpose to catch child abusers off guard. In reality, Lieutenant Linda is a highly trained professional in all areas of fire and rescue services. She is ready to use those skills to combat any and all child abusers in our city and beyond. Fear is not a word in Lieutenant Linda's vocabulary. The Chavano Park Police Department presents Mireya, also known as Wonder Woman. Mireya's strength is a defining feature derived from her demigod status and the blessings of the Greek pantheon. This grants her enhanced speed, strength, durability, senses, beauty, and intelligence. Mireya doesn't need to use her impervious bracelets for power. She carries a pair of unbreakable Chavano Park Police Department-issued handcuffs and is ready to arrest all child abusers on the spot. Child offenders, beware. And the Administration Department presents Shadow, the daddy eagle from Big Bear Valley. Maybe you followed Shadow and Jackie and their adorable eaglets, Sunny and Gizmo, on their webcam, or have seen them on the news or Facebook. Not only is Shadow a great hunter and protector of his own family, during the day he's busy scouring and soaring the skies with his eagle-eye vision, searching for any predators or child abusers, and is ready to report any dangerous sightings to the Chavano Park Police Department. Way to go, Shadow. And those are this year's Cardboard Kids.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Without objection, I'm going to move item 5.2, recognition of Whataburger and their sponsorship of the 2025 Arbor Day Earth Day poster contest to May. There being no objection, 5.3, recognition, excellence in performance by Joe Prado, Public Works Water Serviceman. Pete? Oh, is it Bill?
We'll ask Johnny to come up here.
It's Johnny, okay.
Awesome. All righty. So we're coming to you tonight to recognize Joe Prado. He's been with our lovely city for 5 years. I've worked with him for about a year and a half now. Getting here, I had to get to know everybody individually. Joe stood out a lot just because of the fact that he's a man of many talents. He does carry one of our 4 CDLs in our Public Works Department, which is always an asset to have, being able to mobilize and get things done. He's also recently acquired his Irrigator 1 certification, so that allows him to be able to diagnose, repair, and service all of our irrigation systems around our whole infrastructure in Chavano Park. He also has a hidden talent that's presently right in front of you guys that has kind of won us a prize, which last year at Halloween Fest is decorating our booth with all those beautiful cherries and giving us that wonderful ambiance that we needed for our gathering to win. So that was an awesome thing for him. And he also painted the Roadrunner on this beautiful rock here. When I first saw it on Facebook, it looked small, and I saw it in Brenda's office, and I said, Joe did that? I was like, man, that's a bigger rock than I thought. I said, it looks beautiful. I was like, we should put it out here in the lobby. It looks really beautiful. But no, Joe is an awesome person to have in Public Works. He brings a seriousness to work every day, and proud to be working with him. And thank you, Joe. You want to come on up? His wife is here as well.
And I might just add that the rocks were painted as part of the beginning of the rock garden, and that we did in Arbor Day. Come on up here.
Item 6.2, consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired by any alderman on any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately at the end of the regular agenda. Do I have a motion to accept and or approve items 6.1 through 6.4? We have a motion from Lee. Do we have a second? Second from Maggie. There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. City manager's report. All matters listed under this item are considered routine by the city council and will only be considered at the request of one or more aldermen. Coincident with each listed item, discussion will generally occur at the end of our regular agenda. Does anybody want to pull any of items 7.1 through 7.6? There being no request, brings us to item number 8, regular agenda items. Item 8.1, discussion action, appointment of municipal judge pursuant to ordinance O 2025-004, appointing the municipal judge to municipal court of record number 1 in the city of Chavano Park, appointment of a court prosecutor, and consideration for future appointment of an alternate judge or alternate prosecutor and city attorney. This is an administrative ordinance and will be considered this evening as one item. Maggie and I have been working on this item. Maggie?
Yes, indeed. We have reviewed several resumes from folks that have answered our call. We're looking at, we had some excellent candidates. We found some within our municipal judge, one that's already known to us, is working in an area within our legal system here in Chavano Park. And we personally interviewed a person that stood out as a prosecutor, possible. We're being very careful. We're looking at the overall judicial system that we have in Chavano Park. So we are just looking at our city judge and city prosecutor at this particular time.
Okay. As Maggie said, the two individuals that we are recommending as a subcommittee certainly stood out. The judge that we are recommending is Daryl Delnig. Daryl is a judge in 8 or 9 different communities at this point. He had more judicial experience for communities, for municipalities than anybody else that was in the group. And the prosecutor that we interviewed with, and who also had the most number of prosecuting experience in municipalities, is Anthony Arriaga. Anthony is absolutely, truly remarkable. After having gone through that, we've talked to our city manager, Bill, about the consideration of our city attorney. Denton Navarro has had some upheaval because of Megan. Frankly, the only reason that we would be even looking at this is Megan has passed away, and we want to kick the tires a little bit more on that relationship as we go forward. As far as an alternate judge and alternate prosecutor, as Bill has pointed out to us, and looking back at this, we really don't have an alternate judge. We have judges, and we have a presiding judge, and then everybody else that would be appointed behind the presiding judge. I want to thank Judge Remy and Judge Bailey. They've done an exceptional job for the last 4 years, and as noted in the ordinance that is being proposed to appoint Daryl Delnig as our prosecutor, their term of 4 years is up on May the 15th. We certainly appreciate everything that they have done. They have provided good and faithful service in the 4 years that they have been in service, and we commend them for their service. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2025-004, appointing Daryl Delnig as the municipal judge of Municipal Court of Record Number 1 in the city of Chavano Park. This is an administrative change. And then after we take a vote on that, I will also entertain a second motion concerning the appointment of Anthony Arriaga as the court prosecutor. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 2025-004, appointing Daryl Delnig as the municipal judge of Municipal Court of Record Number 1 in the city of Chavano Park?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Conrad. Do we have a second?
Second it.
We have a second from Buddy. We're now open for discussion. There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Second part of this item, the approval of the appointment of Anthony Arriaga as the court prosecutor. Do we have a motion to approve Anthony as our court prosecutor? This is not by ordinance. This is just simply an action by council, as all designations of attorneys are made by council by majority vote. Do we have a motion?
To make a motion.
Conrad has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Lee. If there's no discussion, there being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Congratulations to both of them. The city attorney's term is for an indefinite term. Under the ordinance, Darrell Dolnick will serve under a 2-year term, and it will be up for reappointment next May. And again, we thank Judges Remy and Bailey for their faithful service ending on May the 15th. Item 8.1.1, discussion action approval of the hire of a special legal counsel to consult with and prepare documents for the city attorney concerning city ordinance violations and civil matters. Bill and I were talking about this, and sometimes as an attorney, you want to talk to other people. And not that Denton Navarro has not provided great recommendations and advice over the almost 30 years, no, not 30 years, over the 26 years that since I first recommended that we hire Lowell Denton as our attorney. But sometimes you want to get a second opinion. And Bill and I have been talking about that concerning our civil litigation that we have outstanding. Maggie and I have met on this, and we have talked about the law firm of Sanchez and Wilson. And we find them to be very well qualified. Buddy has extensive experience in working with them in governmental affairs, and we think that it is, just as a city, we have multiple engineer opportunities for Bill. We think that it is important that Bill be able to also have a backup attorney. Sometimes law firms get really overwhelmed, and it would be nice to have somebody to be able to go to for options at particular moments. Bill, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think you've covered it, Mayor.
Okay. Maggie, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think we had a good response, and I think we've done a good job of looking over all the candidates.
Okay. And with the ones that we looked at were the ones who made application to the city. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the hiring of Sanchez and Wilson as special legal counsel to the city of Chavano Park. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Sanchez and Wilson as special legal counsel.
Okay, Buddy has made a motion. Do we have a second? Pete has seconded the motion. Do we have any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. This brings us to item 8.2, discussion action award contract for the construction of the federal community project funded project on Days of Alla Road Maintenance and Drainage Project, Phase 1B, based on bids received from request for proposal. Bill, I'm going to recognize you just to introduce our city engineer, and Curtis is going to have some additional items to add after our city engineer. Bill,
Of
you
course,
want
we've been briefing this for a little over 2 years, and it's been quite the process. And ultimately, we had a significant amount of the plans done prior to getting the grant. We finished up the plans, and then we tasked Collier Engineers to go out with the request for proposals, and that was done in March 12th. And then Chris Otto here is Vice President of Collier, is going to be representing them and can explain the process and the results.
Yeah, so we did do a public advertisement for bid. We opened those bids on April 16th, and we had three bidders, J3 Company, D&D Contractors, and Easy Bell Construction. We reviewed all of the bids, and the base bid ranged, well, actually, we'll go with the total bid because we're recommending the alternate also. Total bids ranged from $4.865 million up to $5.6 million, with Easy Bell being at the $5.6 million. J3 and D&D were relatively close to each other at $4.865 and $5.02 million. Our opinion of probable construction cost back in January was $4.345 million. So we are about $500,000 more than we had anticipated back in January. We did review the bids to see why that was. The main factor that came in play was the 54-inch pipe. 54-inch pipe, based on historic bids, is about $400,000 $410 a linear foot. We truthed that out using TxDOT unit prices, and they were about the same. J3, the low bidder, was $732 a linear foot for the 54-inch pipe. So that was the big difference there. Everything else was within range of what we expected. Given the rock that we have out here, we don't think the $732 is out of line. It's just higher than we expected. So J3 is the lowest qualified bidder. So in reviewing their proposal, we didn't find any discrepancies. Their bid bond is fully complete and in order. They meet the requirements of the 3 past projects, Ventura Boulevard, Mustang Vista, and Evers Road. They did show a construction contract starting July 1st and ending 12 months later. And they are not disbarred. They are not a disbarred contractor for HUD, so they are eligible to work on federally funded projects. And so therefore, we are recommending award of the construction contract to J3 for the base bid and the additive alternate.
Curtis?
All right, thank you, council. I'll just cover the financial angle of this, and this is really Brenda and me, even though I'm talking right now. But over here in green, we have the 2022 $10 million bond spending tracker. You've seen this several different times at different iterations, and now there's a new blue one over here for the federal federal grant and tracking our drawdowns out of that. The bottom line is we've updated and assumed that if council approved this and J3 was, we plugged in all the numbers up here. And those are all highlighted in yellow on here. So the bottom line is we predict we'll be able to do $3.8 million under the feds because we've already got 191 from them for the engineering. So we'll be able to do, of the J3 contract, 3.8 million. The remaining is gonna go to our 2022 bond. And you can see those numbers in yellow. That's the phase 1B is the base bid, that's in J3. So the leftovers there plugged in, and then you have the phase 1C, which is in Chavano Creek, that alternative, those numbers are plugged in. The engineering numbers are all updated. The bottom line is if council approved this, we predict that it'll be $1 million after everything is, all the invoices come in phase 1A. And if the project was done within the contracted amount, $1 million left over.
Do you have another slide?
Oh, yes. Also, we thought it would be good as we continue to move forward. We've always been looking at the different funding sources. Really, now that I just switched gears and now we're spending by the project. So if you want to look, what are we anticipated to spend by project? And you can see the city and federal monies and where they're in different parts. So right now, if I just assume all the engineering comes in as what it is and the last bids, we will spend a total on the entire phase 1A, $8.5 million. And of course, no federals there. Phase 1B, right now it's predicted it would be 4.43 million, with 400,000 of that being on the bond side, the rest in federal. And then phase 1C here in Chavano Creek, because of the lowest bid just came in higher than anticipated, the vast majority that's gonna have to be covered by the bond, which you can see here, and very little by the Fed. But the total three of all these projects is 13.838 million. And of course we have 10 million-ish we're working, a 10 million bond, 4 million federal, and of course interest. The interest that we're gaining on the bond isn't really in this table. This is just tracking spending.
Does Brenda happen to know what the interest is that we've made on the bond?
Well, go back slide. Yeah, so interest income is 847,000. And so if you go forward one slide, I just remind you that there is a phase 1D, which we have planned, okay, and that is Chavano Creek. So what we're doing is we're completing phase 1B and C with this bid, and then at some point in time when we're substantially done, our intent is to go out and figure out how much we can apply to phase 1D to provide extending maintenance on Chavano Creek, since they're 15 years away from getting major work done. We've promised that to those residents, and we're still on track. So it's, I want to make sure we're tracking. We don't have an extra million. That million is accounted for in Phase 1D. And then the other thing that I've talked to a couple of you about is we really thought the Days of Alla project would be about 3.5 million. And so it's 4.5 million essentially. Part of that is the cost, the extra cost in the culvert that's going to go into the ground. But part of it also is the parking along Days of Alla, and then the new parking area once the construction is done. And we initially started it, we weren't shaving off Days of Alla near Bikeway. So there's been 3 major changes in the upgrade and scope of this project from when we initially kind of went out for the grant. And so that's a way to look at that and kind of reconcile it in my mind.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Do y'all have anything else to add at this point before I entertain a motion?
I will add that the contractor's representative is here if y'all have any questions for them.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve J3 Company LLC for award of the base bid with alternates number 1 and authorize city manager to negotiate a construction contract for 4.865526.04 for Chavano Park Street Maintenance Phase 1B, 1C. Conrad,
Like make a motion to approve.
do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Okay, we're now open for discussion. We
Okay.
have discussion after we have a motion and a second. Okay, we're now open for discussion. Pete?
Yeah, so I do have some concerns on this project. I mean, when you look at where we started and where we ended up, there's significant cost increase to this. And as you look at projects, I've always seen projects, there's always risks that are associated with that. It's a fair statement. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's always risks. There's always the possibility of going over overages. And I've seen a lot of and the larger the project, the more concerned and the cautious that you have to be on overages. So they do sometimes happen. So I do have some concerns on that. Also have concerns about the complexity and the safety issues and the size of this project, because one of the things we are going to be keeping open is we'll be keeping the traffic throughput on Decavalis. That's correct, right? Throughout our project. So
Yes.
we will not close off Decavalis. So there's safety issues that are associated with that, and the size of the project too is of concern. So I would like to propose an alternate motion, and that's to have the Road Advisory Committee that was established in 2023 to review the Decavalis Road Maintenance and Drainage Project contract bid and present any concerns or potential risk as to City Council in May. So I think our plans are to move the May meeting up, so it would allow an additional couple weeks for that Road Advisory Committee to look at this, because it is a complex. There's a lot of issues that are here, a lot of material that's been provided, just to make sure that we don't have any risk that we didn't overlook.
Okay, Pete has made a motion to amend I think Pete has made a motion to strike the motion and to appoint and to go back to the Advisory Road Committee with a request to reconsider this item at the May meeting. Do we have a second?
I think I'd like to second that. I'd like to second that.
Okay, we have a second from Conrad. Okay, that is now the primary motion, usurping the first motion. Do we have we're now open for discussion on the new primary motion.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question on this.
Buddy.
Can we ask some clarification? Do we need to award the contract first before we establish a subcommittee to overlook everything, or?
Well, we had, and thank you, and we're in the discussion right now, Buddy, and that's a question to address to Bill in the discussion phase. Bill, do we have an advisory road committee for the Days of Valor project?
We had one for Phase 1 Alpha.
But we don't have one for the Days of Valor project.
Well, maybe it was just a Phase 1, because Song did advise us on Days of Allah. So I would say Song and Al and
Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons. I guess the question that I would have is, Chris, when we released the RFP and then we got bids, those bids are good for how long?
That's a good question. I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that one because I've never come across that.
So Chris, I'd also like to expand that question. So if we move our meeting up to May and we're able to do that within, let's say, three weeks to review this, does it create any other issues for the project in any of the financing and any of the bids? I mean, the intent here is not to torpedo this. The intent is not to torpedo it. The intent is to do due diligence and making sure that we haven't overlooked any risks. This is a big project. It's a lot of money. When risks are imposed, there are possibilities for over expenditures. And because we're talking the size of this project, if we were in like a 20% over expenditure, if there's risks that we're not aware of, that potentially could create problems for us. So that's the reason for the motion.
So back up to my unknown before, it's fairly common practice for bids to come in and then it take a month or two before, council or whatever board makes their actual award. And then NTP, or notice to proceed, is typically another month or two after that. I've seen them go even longer. On this project, this is a much more detailed design than on the Phase 1 Alpha, just because of the nature of the projects. I mean, during construction, they will have concrete traffic barriers in place to protect traffic from the trench that they're gonna have to dig. And I'll be honest, I forgot the third thing that you said. It just slipped my mind.
So you're going down the right road. I mean,
Financial risk.
Are there any other concerns on the timing of the project? But if we delay this for 3 to 4 weeks, which we're talking about doing to do due diligence, making sure that that we kind of get an outside perspective to look at this, does it create any problems for you?
I don't know that it creates any additional problems. Generally, you do want to start a project as early in the summer as possible because of school traffic. So the more that we can do early in the summer, the better off we are long-term. But from a financial perspective, I don't see any risk in that. It's more of just a headache for the residents if we push it deeper into the school year.
Okay. Chris, under the bidding process, what is the risk of the commodity cost escalating? Asphalt's the biggest part of so many project costs, concrete. What is who bears the risk as the cost of that commodity goes up and down?
Generally, the contractor bears that risk. I mean, now, if we have another COVID situation, there's supply chain, force majeure type stuff, then the city could see some risk, but generally it's on the contractor. When they bid these, they know it's a 12-month project. Their unit prices assume 12 months of escalation, barring something, major happening.
Okay, Conrad?
So I think just to clarify what we're talking about here, I don't think we're trying to get rid of anything as far as the whole
A little
contract.
bit closer, Conrad.
As far as the whole contract, we're not trying to get rid of or cancel the contract. We haven't even done it yet. But the issue, I think, is a risk management thing. As Pete talked about, we have a 30% increase in cost that, I think we owe that to our citizens to take a look at. And I think, possibly there's a deletion of some things that could be not addressed. We don't know. So let's take a look at it. And I don't know how we move forward with that, but we definitely all want this done. So you know what I'm saying? It's not a no-go.
Okay, I'm going to go to Bill now.
So
Yeah, I'm coming back to you after Bill.
the subcommittee was organized to have three of our residents, one's an engineer, civil engineer who has expertise in this. One was a process guy, and one was a citizen who happened to live on the first street. So I'm not sure what we're really asking him to do, to be completely frank, because only one really is qualified to look at plans and to look at this and figure out what's going on. And we've been looking at this in terms of risk and process for 2.5 years in my assessment. Have we asked Bill Simmons' his song's out of the country sometimes 3 weeks at a time. Is he even available?
Yes. So, Bill, I think what it brings is a fresh set of eyes. A lot of times, I know when I've been involved in projects and things like this, you get so concentrated on the project that you don't see things that other people might see. So it's to bring a fresh set of eyes. And do I think the three people that you've mentioned all have a right to be there? I do, because I think Bill Simmons brings kind of the concerns of the citizens, and that was one of the reasons that we had him on there before, is because if there's safety concerns or accessing your homes or things like that, he would bring those concerns up. You're correct that Song would bring a view from an engineering standpoint. I think that's good. But one of the things that I think Al brings is a real understanding of risk and how to manage risk, because he's been involved in a lot of heavy projects. So I think all three of them bring something to the table. And again, this is not to torpedo the project. This is to step back and take a couple weeks and say, is there anything we overlooked here? And bringing a fresh set of eyes. The other thing I would not be opposed to is having the J3 company come in and be part of those discussions and talk about the safety issues that they might see as well. So, I mean, that would be optional to y'all, but
Yeah.
I think the committee would be a good idea to look at.
Maggie?
Well, I say this is not my,
Close to your mic, please.
this is not my greatest bit of information, but I just have some concerns because of our last project. We ran into a situation where some lines of money concerning the bid were left out of the bid, which caused us, I think in the end run, it turned out okay, but it was a problem to me. That it somehow got overlooked. How it got overlooked, I just want to be sure that we catch it this time, if that should happen, or that it's looked over. However, that is the best process of doing, that we look over to make sure all the figures are in.
Okay.
That's,
Lee, I'm going to come to you, and then I'm going to go back to Buddy.
My concern is we've got time, we've got safety, and we've got the ever fluctuating cost of material that go into these things. My mind is that we go ahead with the project as stated, for the simple reason that we've got multiple years of staff looking at this, learning from prior errors or mistakes, how few they were. I think we're going to have to trust our engineers and our staff that they looked at this well enough. I'm looking at delays, as he said, of getting out of the summer and into the fall when we start school. That is a narrow piece of pavement that's got a lot of traffic on it. I'd like to get as much of it done as possible. I have a personal vested interest in it because I use it every day, and I'd like to see it done. Everybody complains about 1604, how massive the construction is. That's because when they built it 30 years ago, they didn't build it to spec. They made it too small and tried to save money, time, and snail darters. So my mind is that we just go ahead and go with it.
Okay. I do have a question for you, Lee. You know what Al's travel plans are. What is Al's travel plan?
I will be back Sunday evening at 5:15, God willing, the plane lands properly. After that, I think we've got 2 months before his next cruise.
Okay. Okay. Buddy, coming back to you, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I'm just concerned. My only concern is that the bids that were submitted I'm sure they had a bond associated with them. I don't know if it was a bid bond, which sometimes only lasts for 30, 60 days, depending on who issues them. I'm not really, in the construction industry. So that'd be my only concern is that, we have bid bonds that were submitted with the procurement that was submitted, and just want to make sure that they're still valid. So there's just some consideration, I think, that needs to be given to the contractors. But I agree with Maggie. I mean, there were some mistakes in the last RFP that were overlooked, and I think we do owe consideration to the citizens of Chavano Park to make sure that there's complete oversight. And Lee brings out a lot of good, valid points too. I mean, time is of the essence, especially with prices the way they're going up, and the mere fact that there's a lot of traffic that goes up and down De Zavala.
Okay. Paul, this is a contract negotiation. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session concerning contract negotiations. Can you tell me the correct government code to do that with? And I'd like for you to, and then I will entertain a motion under that. Yeah, what's the number?
The general attorney-client discussion for consulting on real estate or construction matters would be good. And if you'll give me a moment, I'll find the provision number. I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Yeah,
right
no, I understand.
Should be in the bottom of the agenda in the catch-all.
That's personnel matters, Bill. That's
Well,
not
there's
going to
several,
be
right?
contract negotiations.
No.
Consultation with attorney, 551071.
071.
Okay, so 551071. At this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to section 551071 of the Texas Local Government Code, discussion with consultation with attorneys concerning contracts.
So moved, but before we do that,
Okay.
can I make one more comment?
You've made a motion, but now I'm waiting on a second.
I'll second it.
Buddy has given us a second. We have a motion and a second. You can talk about going into the executive session, but nothing else. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. It is now 7:18, and we're going to go into an executive session. 7:42, we're returning from our executive session, consultation with attorney regarding contract negotiations. No decisions were made, no votes were taken. I'm going to recognize Pete.
All right, Mayor. I'd like to withdraw my previous motion and bring forward a motion that we approve J3 Company LLC for awarding the base bid with alternative 1 and authorizing city manager to negotiate construction contract of $4.865 million for Chavano Park Creek Maintenance Plan 1B and 1C.
Okay, you've withdrawn your motion. That was the original motion from Conrad and Maggie. Conrad, do you consent to the withdrawal of the motion?
I consent.
Okay. We're now back to our discussion on the primary motion. Do we have any further discussion? There being no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Okay, well, I'm going to invite you to come forward and introduce yourselves. Your contract has just been approved by the city council. Come on down. Tell us who you are.
Who are these people?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sohail Shakil with J3 Companies representing.
Angela Vargas, Contracts Management. He's our project manager.
Yeah, I'm the project manager. Happy to be here. Thank you all for approving the contract. We're looking forward to doing this project. J3 has a lot of experience in roadway construction. Safety concerns is our first, line of thought at anything we do. So we're looking forward to serving the community here.
Okay, very good. Bill will be in touch with you to talk with y'all. Part of the motion, you heard the motion, it includes negotiate construction contract, and we will be in touch with you on that. Bill?
Yeah, they approved the contract award. The actual contract
Okay.
is going to be sorted out between us, and included in that is going to be some discussions and risk management assessments where we'll be working with you in the pre-construction meetings.
Okay.
So thank you very much for being here with us this evening, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, without objection, I'm going to go to item 8.4, 8.5, so that Chris can be heading home. There being no objection. Item 8.4, Turkey Creek drainage update to direct let's see, I just turned from my page. Discussion, action, review the possible Turkey Creek drainage improvement project, authorization and funding for 40% solution. I'm going to turn to Bill first. Bill?
Okay, so I initiated this thinking ahead 2 or 3 years, whereas if we're going to tear up the northwest side of Chavano Park in the next major phase of road construction, phase 2, if there's going to be a drainage project ever in that same area, we should at least consider whether or not we do it at the same time. That's the bottom line. And then, just to recall, in 2020, we tasked Collier Engineers to come up with a preliminary report of the remaining drainage areas. And it was pretty extensive. They actually came up with a concept plan for how they might work a couple areas, which included De Zavala. We're sorting that out now. Elm Spring, as well as the Turkey Creek Honeybee Longbow type piece. So those 3 major projects, we've got De Zavala knocked out. We have a lot of resistance on Bikeway and Elm Springs. And so, and that problem hasn't been assessed as quite a significant hazard as it is to the north of that, where you have water coming off Northwest Military Highway, water coming from the east of Northwest Military Highway, flowing across, and then also coming down from the north, all accumulating into what could be very, very significant dangerous conditions. And those conditions were exacerbated in 1998 and 2002. So the concept plan was one thing. Do we have citizen support? So I started out, let's go out and get on the ground and see if we have citizen support. And so I think I'll just go to the next slide real quick. This is part of the National Flood Hazard layer on the left, not so important. The part on the right shows a dark blue bolded line, which is a potential culvert, underground and or overground system that would take and transfer some of that water and mitigate some of the risk associated with it. I went out on the ground. Next slide. I've talked to all these owners, even the ones that are not colored yellow. And the 134 Longbow, you're yellow now. But pretty much everyone is in general supportive of this, and they've signed rights of entry to allow surveying. So at the time we brought this up to City Council, we were looking at a 40% plan. We asked Chris to work up a task order for that. He hadn't been on the ground. We actually delayed the action last month. We did not bring the task order in front of you. And then Chris and I went with, I think it was it Bobby or Andrew, Andy? And
Andy.
We walked basically all these properties personally. And then we looked at, well, is the underground solution the best way, or is it the above ground, and what's going to happen? Well, I don't think the citizens fully understand what we're presenting as the plan. And then we got the proposal from Chris to take the concept that you just saw a minute ago to a 40% plan, which is pretty extensive, actually. And that was for a cost of $161,000. I probably should have known that's what it would have cost because I know about what engineering costs are going to be, but in my mind, I didn't think in terms of that big of a number. So when we got that, I actually am not pushing back on that at all, Chris, other than I don't have $160,000 that's unallocated for this. And so as I was preparing for this, here's the bottom line. I'll just get cut to the chase. I thought I was going to ask for a recommendation to approve the task order to get to 40% so that we could then present it to the citizens. Chris and I have been talking, and I think that we've got a good task order. He knows what he needs to do, but we can take a step before that, similar to what we were just talking about before, where we can outline the plan more specifically, contact all the residents associated with this, and then brief them in a little bit more detailed fidelity to say, I got your support, most of you signed our rights of entry. Here's a little bit more refined plan. Do we still have your support? Because again, as I was telling Chris today, I was telling the mayor, there's really 1, 2, 3, 4. There's really, it all boils down to it, there's 4 properties you absolutely have to have approval for. And 2 of the properties, no, there's 6. 2 of the properties of the 6 are vacant lots, and the water already exists there, so you have a high probability. The other 4 property owners are highly supportive of this, but we need to show them some refined slides. For example, and I'll turn it over to Chris because he's provided some visuals of what it might look like, and then you can kind of talk any more of the specifics. But we're asking for a pause, and then a town hall meeting, and then briefings here where the engineer, not Bill Hill, can explain what it's going to look like because, you know, you're really going to have to tear up things before you rebuild them and take some trees out. Chris? I think there's another slide, right?
Yeah, so to gain public support on the project, what we're recommending going forward with right now is preparing a couple of renderings to show what this would look like. I mean, you're talking about people's front yards and side yards and backyards. You know, they hear channel, they're envisioning, quite frankly, what's on the screen right now is either concrete, probably concrete's what they're envisioning. Ignore the rock on this one. We are not proposing rock. We're not proposing concrete. It's all going to be earth. But this is just an example of another project that we worked on where we used 3D renderings to help the general public understand what we were proposing. I mean, engineering drawings, you know, some of us can read them really easily. They don't make a lot of sense to most people. And so this really drives it home as to what is being proposed and what it's going to look like. And so that was part of the scope that we had prepared, and so we can pull that out and do as a separate task order just to prepare a couple of renderings, you know, at Turkey Creek, at Honeybee, you know, 1 or 2 locations to help them understand. And then we'll have the engineering drawings because we did a PER, so we have a schematic design. The schematic combined with these images, I think, would go a long way in helping people understand what exactly is being proposed.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to request a motion to direct staff to schedule drainage project concept meeting with residents to gain more feedback, and if support exists for the project, then consider funding options and approval during the budget cycle. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Pete. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Maggie. There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much, Chris. Drive safely.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Without objection, I'm going to bring item 8.7 forward because we have the illustrious Dixie Watkins with us today. And Dixie, I don't want you to have to stay out past your bedtime because you're getting, oh man, because you're like so many of us. Yeah. Come on up. Bill, do you have anything that you'd like to say before we turn this over to Dixie?
You all have approved the MXD. They're tweaking it, and they have not submitted a request to amend it. The amendments that they are going to present, and Dixie will talk about them, are within the authority of the city manager, because they're not really changing any conceptual piece. You're just changing the sizes and locations of where it all is. So this key thing is to try to get guidance from city council, because they are proposing deeding property to the city, which currently is in the Rogers Unit 19, and then we would take ownership of that and responsibility of it. Okay.
Yeah. I think Curtis has the slides. Yeah. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Dixie Watkins III Associates, and been doing planning and design in your bird for a very long time. This project has evolved and changed a lot, but the basic aspect of a public through street with a 60-foot right-of-way and 40-foot pavement has not changed. A little bit of history in what we're now calling the municipal open space, which Bill just alluded to, which will be dedicated and rezoned by the city as municipal, is some of it's tight. The southern end that you see, which is all easement and undevelopable, I want it to be part of our hike bike connection, which it's clean through this site, but as you go on to the points north and east, it can make that connection to the Slaughter Creek Greenway, but it's a little tortuous going through the Paisanos Parkway and around Blattman, but it can connect eventually to the Slaughter Creek Trailhead that we did several years ago. So that in and of itself, it will be part of the $500,000 that are budgeted inside the PID that will go for landscape improvements, both the street trees in the right-of-way and landscape aspects that deal with the hike bike trail, probably benches and tables and some very modest passive recreational improvements. But the possibility of that trail looks like now it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about a half of a mile, depending on how the final layout of the trail system goes. So it's a really nice area that's even inside the easement itself has a lot of really nice trees, and especially up by the old, pardon my West Texas parlance, cow tank. Up in the northeastern portion, there's some really big, beautiful trees we want to work around. The land plan itself has not changed significantly. As you've heard, this is really a minor adjustment to the overall plan. We've actually increased the size of the commercial that's over on Pond Hill to integrate the overhead CPS easement, so it's a much more developable commercial site, which forced the townhouses into the specialty commercial, which we still hope is the hospitality tract, i.e. hotel. We can get that fit in there. I've added and had the engineers also reflect on their drawing a 30-foot continuous natural landscape buffer up on 1604 to keep it in a little bit of a softer look. And a little bit on the evolution of the townhomes. We've gone, at least on my table, not officially with you guys, but we had as many as 50 townhomes. The first actual PID MXD plan came in at 42 units on 6 acres. We shrunk it to 39 on 5.5 acres, and now it's in its final resting place, which we're pretty comfortable with, will be 38 units on 6.6 acres. So we've actually grown the lots, grown the open space, and reduced the overall townhomes. It's unique in that you see this strange, it looks like it's, the differences between the lots being, one being 35 and one being 40. The engineers have that represented with little blocks here, but what you can see in that particular engineering drawing is that each unit is duplex townhomes. So both of the units, even though they'll have a common wall, will have an outside window placement. So both units will enjoy the outside, unlike normal townhouses, usually like front and backyard. And then the end units after 6 have side views. So this is kind of a unique thing. We did model a lot of this after what we worked with on the architects for a very long time at Corey Heights Villas, which is one of our better townhome projects inside of our Lincoln Heights Corey redevelopment project. So you'll see probably 100% masonry. It'll either be standing seam metal roofs or probably concrete tile. So it'll be a notch better than In terms of the price points, I can't tell you, but in terms of the Pond Hill townhomes is an example. What else? That's pretty much the quick summary of this.
Can you go back 2 slides? There you go. What I want to point out is that if you look on the screen where I got my marker here, right about right here is a CPS utility easement. And so the whole revision is based upon you can't have these townhomes here, and it's got to be pushed this way. So now, Dixie, I'm looking at that footprint there.
Yeah.
I'm still having a hard time understanding how that's going to fit in the next slide, but go to the next slide. See, we had townhomes right here.
Yep.
And now we pushed them to here.
Yes.
Which is, it is what it is. I mean, you can't do anything here with the CPS easement. I mean, I got that.
Yeah,
But I don't see that hospitality footprint there.
No, the conceptual thing I did was off of a Hampton 5-story thing in Arvada that had a special events meeting facility, and it was sort of a standard plan to throw in there. And it has kind of like a double loaded component on both sides. A more single loaded component is tight, but it still fits. I've not done the space planning on it. Laddie's pretty comfortable, and you'll see my curvilinear line of what would be the differences between the drainage area and the open space area is still a little bit of a work in progress with the engineers. I don't think it's as tight as you see, but it remains to be seen in terms of the stormwater that we're accepting underneath 1604 on the north and how that water moves through the site, if we can flex that line just a little bit.
Yeah, so also I noticed right here.
Yeah, that's all.
You're not proposing that come to the city?
That already is part of the platted open space inside of the Huntington development.
So Huntington maintains control of that?
Yes.
Okay, because there's a fence right here, is there not?
No, it's up on the property line.
You think, okay, that's the fence for Huntington right there?
Yes, sir. And what you can see in that concept drawing is that long ago when I did the land plan and the landscape design for Huntington, we did I call it a pedestrian cul-de-sac, if you will, on the very far left side. That exists, and so we're going to attach to that, and that'll make a really nice connection to points to the west.
That's right. That's real nice right there.
But you also see that I did denote on this particular iteration of the plan that the public through street versus the private streets that'll be inside the townhome community.
Yeah, public?
Yes.
This would be city's responsibility right here.
Yes.
And then this would be private.
Correct.
In here, which is good.
And we've, as much as it's not exactly as tight as some of the infill projects you see in other cities, we're comfortable with actually keeping the more standard 50-foot right-of-way and 30-foot pavement. It allows us to have better street trees inside the unit and also parking.
The other change to the initial one is there's an extra entrance so that you're providing these people could go out this way, these people will use this one, these people will use, and they don't have to, these guys don't have to drive all the way to here. In both cases right now, as I have conceived it, and the engineers actually have agreed with me thus far, that those are going to only be exits, that the main event where the monument signage will be the entry point. Oh, good.
Entry and exit component. It's better sight lines right there for more traffic, and the other two work for exits only.
So everybody comes in this way?
Yes.
And then you can leave this way, or this way?
That's correct. So it's got 3 different bleed-offs. And I've not designed the things that go inside of them, but the little asterisks you see are small recreational areas that could accommodate pickleball or small little dog parks or picnic areas. There's going to be 3 or 4 of those as well.
Okay. Bill, anything else that you'd like to tell us about this?
No, and the key question is do they move forward with dedicating this space here to the city? And,
Which space is
it? The green space right there that's highlighted there. So again, I would just say, from the city standpoint, we've had hike and bike trails in our town plan since 1999, 2010, 2018, 2023. The implication is we'll have to maintain it or contract it to be maintained. But it's in the scope of what we've envisioned for connecting to trailways.
Yeah. Bill, how much work are we doing along Willowwood, the sidewalks between Willowwood and Pond Hill?
Johnny?
Minimum, just mowing about 10 feet off the sides of it.
Yeah.
Certain areas, some feet are about 4 feet, just depending on vegetation.
How many times a year?
8 to 12, depending on rain season, rainfall.
And how many days does it take to do it? One day, half a day?
1 day.
Okay. I'm going to open this up for discussion. Any questions that people have for Dixie? Pete?
So a comment and a question.
Yes, sir.
The first comment has to do with the parking that you've put in there. I don't think that was in your original design.
No.
And I think that's really smart to do. One of the things I've seen is a lot of these times you have guests or you have parties like that, and there's no place to park. So commend you on putting that in.
Thank you.
The next question has to do with when this was first brought forward, I think everybody was really excited about the hospitality center that we were putting there. Can you tell me about the acreage difference? So now you have 2.9. What was the original acreage on that? And I kind of share the same sentiments that Bill had.
3.2.
3.2?
Yeah, what I did in the revision was to lose the 1 acre retail that ate into the hospitality track you saw in the previous plan that was just on screen. So I've been able to, there you go. I've taken that retail as a separate pod out and added that to the hospitality track, even though what you see on this example is way oversized. At least in the space planning for this, I had a lot of parking inside that hospitality track, thinking of a major entertainment component to it. Again, I modeled that after a different Hampton in a different city. And I think that's the pedestrians, the porte cochere and the drop-off for that thing can shift up to the northern side so that the longer single-axis building will probably still fit just fine, but it's going to be shifted up into the retail to the north as well.
So, Dixie, could you give us any updates on the hospitality center?
I
and what that might
cannot.
look like?
I cannot.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Maggie?
I have a,
Maggie, if you could use your mic so that.
okay, look at my spot. On the possibility, excuse me, of the hike and bike trail,
Yes, ma'am.
do they front up or back up to the townhomes? Or
There's, at least from those are the backyards for those townhouse units.
the backyards?
And what I've done was put, as you can see, the little dots are gated trail connections in 2 different areas inside the actual townhome project. And then I've also reconfigured to have one off of the lower greenway into the hospitality tract or specialty commercial,
Yes.
and then 2 coming up out of the open space, and 1 toward the north and 1 into the middle.
Okay. Will there be like fencing or some sort of a visual or safety barricade between or thing in between the townhomes and the bike trail?
Yes, those will be standard. A prototype fence will be the backyard fence of all of those townhomes.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's going to be masonry on the east and the west side, but it'll probably be an open bar, I'm thinking, on the back side of the townhouses towards the Huntington project.
Okay. Will each townhome have ingress or ingress to the trail, or will they have to go around?
I believe they will not.
Okay. That'd be a mess.
Yeah, that's a homeowner, remember here's the grandfather of San Antonio's greenways. It's like, not over my dead body, and then suddenly you get a greenway, and then everybody wants their own back door
Yeah.
to the greenway. So things change, but if it was up to me, I would say it's 2 quasi-public entry points only, and
Right.
not everybody's. But
Okay.
that I cannot say for sure right now.
Okay.
Okay.
They didn't ask me to write the restrictive covenants yet.
Right. Okay. Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Lee?
2 things.
Yes, sir.
This is on Saws, right?
Yes, sir.
Not our water system?
Well, I believe it is, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, number 1 concern out of the way. Number 2, you were asked a question a moment ago about who might be going into the specialty commercial, and your answer was.
Lee,
No,
Maggie
your
can't
answer-
hear you.
Oh, and Maggie, sorry, Maggie. Your response was negative. Which way did that negative go? There's nothing wanting to come into that space, or you're talking to people and you want to keep it under the rose?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that?
Surely, okay, you were asked. The hotel?
Yeah.
Okay, your response sounded like a spy.
No, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
it still could be, that's more of a Laddie
Okay.
Denton question and our commercial real estate broker. I mean, as a space planner, that's, again, space planner, landscape architect only. It can still fit. I do not know where it is politically.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Dixie, thank you very much.
Yes.
We appreciate you coming out. It's always great to see you here.
Good
It's
seeing
been
you.
a couple of years since you've graced us with your presence, but we always enjoy having you with us.
Thank you. Nice to be part of the town here.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, this brings us back to item 8.3. Public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive comments from members of the public regarding proposed ordinance amendments to Chapter 6, 8, 32, and 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited accessory structures, all-weather surfaces, and driveways, and regulate parking in residential zoning districts generally. It is now 8:10, and we're going to begin the public hearing portion of this meeting. Curtis, thank you very much. Curtis will be presenting, and Bill can interject anything he needs to.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This was already reviewed by City Council in February, so I'll move fairly quickly through this in meaning of time, but I'll try to concentrate on the new stuff to show you. So this goes back, if you remember, to the 2023 town plan. Why is this ordinance in front of City Council? Because there was a goal to keep our city ordinances up to date, ensure the cohesiveness and alignment, community vision. So way back almost a year ago now, we presented this list we identified as staff ordinances that we had either looked at in a long time, or our police had issues enforcing, and this defined all-weather surface was on that list, and we last looked at this in 2009. And this was the goals that we gave Planning and Zoning back in November of 2024 when we tasked Planning and Zoning to start this process to create an updated, consistent definition of all-weather surface across city code, ensure consistency of our residential parking regulations, and I think we achieved that. So the basic regulation is set in our ordinances today. We have in my opinion, rather vague prohibition to park on grass. It's in Chapter 32, but missing Chapter 36, so it's not consistent in our code. Driveways are allowed in Chapter 32, but missing in Chapter 36. Typically, what you can and cannot build on your properties should be in the zoning code. All-weather surface for A1 lots, we allow it for A1 lots, but it's in Chapter 32. It's not in Chapter 36, and there's no limits or requirements on this. So conceivably, someone could take their entire backyard and put asphalt on it. And in A1, screen detached front faces garage are allowed if approved by a building inspector, but the requirements are unclear. And so what our changes are, I put together this quick table of where, in this proposed ordinance, where are we moving our parking regulations in residential areas? And in blue is stuff that this ordinance is changing. So parking on grass, this ordinance proposes a clear prohibition after 24 hours. Anything under 24 hours, no issue. Driveways were always required. Two-car garages were always required in all our zoning districts. The only thing we're changing are two-car garages, and we're allowing an A1, Old Chavano Park, East Northwest Military, that you can have a screened front-facing garage. Carports were not impacting those regulations at all. They were allowed in all districts today outside of the cottage estates. Under additional all-weather surface, it was allowed in A1. We're changing it to allowing it in all zoning districts with all lots 0.9 acre or above. And if you're all addressed right away, why 0.9 acre? Because in discussion with planning and zoning, there are lots of lots, even in A1, where people today have the allowance to do all-weather surface. Their lot might be 0.98765. And so if you did 1 acre, you could conceivably have people today that would have the right to put this additional parking pad on their property. They could not do it if you did it with 1 acre. And then we added portico shears under cottage estates. We thought that was an oversight. So we added that as allowed use on the cottage estates, which is Willowwood and Billy Manor cottage estates. So I'll highlight these, I'll move through these really quickly. Back in February, I covered these 3 highlights. Since February, there has not been too many changes from planning and zoning except to tighten some stuff up. But all weather surface regulations, these are the 2 new definitions we have. All weather surface, I'll just read them, means an uncovered, dust-free, and stabilized ground cover for vehicular use and/or parking area, surface with concrete, asphalt, brick, graded and compacted gravel base or road base, interlocking pavers, or any similar dust-free and stabilized materials approved by the building official. Definition does not include ground covers for non-vehicular use such as sports courts, patios, sidewalks, or other residential flat work. And driveway that extends to the side or rear yard of a property is not considered additional all-weather surface. Basically, we tried to ensure that when we made this definition, we spent a long time planning and zoning, crafting it to make sure we would not potentially hit other things people are already doing. If someone has a basketball court on their property, we didn't want our new size regulations to make it all of a sudden their basketball court be out of compliance. That's what all these things that we're adding. And the driveway, one thing we're proposing is that an area surface with concrete, asphalt, brick, or pavers. So we specify the construction material driveways, and we said after July 1st, 2025, which if this is approved and go through the 2 readings, I think will still be a good date, but that's basically a placeholder date. Moving forward, all the driveways constructed to get permit from the city would have to be built of these more durable construction materials, not just gravel. So we have a new all-weather surface regulations where we had none before. And this is, again, is governing all these ones that planning and zoning is proposing to extend to all the lots 0.9 acre. The driveways there is at the very top. This is all together. And that's, I just want to highlight, again, you can see that the limit on a driveway is that it has to accommodate 2 motor vehicles. Very simple. So we're not proposing anything that would make anybody's existing driveways that might curve around the house, go to a side or rear load garage, out of compliance with this. So in all-weather additional parking surfaces, we have location restrictions here in A and B. So this can only be placed in the side or rear yards, cannot be put in the front yard, and it cannot be put within building setbacks. We have a construction requirement. It has to be 3 inches in thickness after compaction. That was something our building inspector said was important, after compaction. Additional all-weather surfaces cannot be covered by a structure. So basically, you cannot make a giant carport, because we'll get into it. Some of these lots could have 1,000 square foot. We don't want a 1,000 square foot parking garage or a carport. We basically have under E there, cannot make your drainage worse. That would be by the building official in plain spoken language. And then we have these new limitations, size limitations, based upon the size of the lots. So 600 square feet for 0.9 to 0.9 to 1.9 acre lots get 600 square feet. And where we started from is that a standard garage is 24 by 24, which is like 484 square feet. So it's basically a little bit larger 2-car garage. And then limited, and then from 1.9 to 2.9, you have 800 square feet and 1,000 square feet for larger than 2.9 acres in size. And your driveway is not included in this calculation, so people aren't going to get docked if they have a driveway extending to their rear yard. And then we require screening for this. And then finally, we say that you can't use it to store junk vehicles. And this is the really big change here where we're doing all-weather surface. And so we spent a lot of time playing P&Z of who would this benefit, how would this work. And so right now today, it's only allowed in A1. All the homes East North Military went through and got a bunch of lots that are over 1 acre or 0.9 acre now that would benefit from this across the city. There are many lots that are of the sizes of A1 lots that we're missing. And let me pull up, we did some, to make sure with planning and zoning that what we were proposing made sense, we actually went back to some original surveys of some lots. So this is 105 Ottawa Run. This is a 1995 survey you're looking. From the original home construction, the home is 10,354 square feet. It sits on a 3.30 acre lot. So this is a potential lot that would benefit from this change. Funnily enough, so with 3.36, which allows a 1,000 square foot pad, as I'll show you, the detached garage was built in 2012 with 10,024 square feet. So they built pretty much the size when they decided to attach their garage at what we're proposed allowing. So we got the correct scale using the engineer's thing, and I created these blocks. Each of one of these blocks is 200 square feet. You can see here you have a front drive. They have a 2 driveway entrance. Zoom out a little. And a curved driveway. Looks like a porte-cochere maybe, some columns. This is not the primary driveway access, but it actually goes up here. And this is the garage, way back in 1995. And so then they built a detached garage, so this must have been, and so I just added on this 1990 survey, what if this resident wanted to come in under the superposed and they put a permit in and they wanted all-weather surface? Well, they would be allowed 1,000 square foot, and I added in 5 blocks, each 200 square foot, and this is what a 1,000 square foot pad, and I just put it near the garage and their cabana back here. If they were to add this, they want to add additional parking on their property, outside their driveway, outside of their garage. This is what it would look like, and this is the entire 3.306 acre lot, and so we thought this was a very reasonable size limitation. Someone with 1,000 square foot, you could fit quite a few basically parking stalls in there. And it would not turning the whole lot into a sea of asphalt. Come on. All right, sorry. All right, so then moving to the other thing that was originally not directed by City Council, but this accessory structures, which is while we were working in this ordinance of planning and zoning, we thought, we were deep into Chapter 36, we thought this was a hole missing in our ordinance, a definition, a term for a building. So we're adding new accessory structures. This is brand new. We already have accessory building definition defined in our code. We're really solid on that, where you can build it, where is it allowed, size limitations, all that. And that is an enclosed 4-wall building. But we had no definition for gazebos, cabanas, pavilions, pergolas, and so, because that's not a 4-wall building. So we have this new definition here proposed. Accessory structure means any freestanding constructed assembly designed to accommodate people and can withstand loads, including structures that can be open on one or more sides or have an open roof. Examples of accessory structures include gazebos, pergolas, bridges, pavilions, carports, porte-cocheres, animal stables, and accessory buildings are not included in this definition. So we ensure that's deconflicted from that because those are existing definitions and regulations for those structures. And all we did is anywhere, if our code allowed you to put a 4-wall building and a roof on it, what if I wanted 2 walls and an open roof? Well, you should be able to put the same structure in the same place. And so accessory buildings and structures have the same size limitations, the same location restrictions, same height restrictions. So accessory buildings or structures greater than 8 feet in height disallowed within building setbacks. And then less than 8 feet in height allowed. And we changed that from enclosed by an 8 solid foot fence to screened. That was another change we had there. And then we added a reinforcer. You can't use it for parking storage of vehicles. We do not want carports in the setbacks. But this would allow someone who had a gazebo that would maybe penetrate into the side setback or the rear setback to be allowed. Today, under our ordinances and permitting, it's not really recognized because it's not a building, but it's a structure. And that includes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. Curtis. Okay, it is now 8:32. Are there any citizen questions, comments, or concerns?
8:23.
8:23. Thank you, Kristen. I'm glad that you can tell the difference between 32 and 23. It is 8:23. There are no citizen questions, comments, or concern. The public hearing portion of this meeting is concluded. Brings us to item 8.4, all-weather surface ordinance. Discussion action ordinance O 2025-005, amending Chapter 6, 8, 32, and 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited accessory structures, all-weather surfaces and driveways, and regulate parking in residential zoning districts generally. This is a first reading. Curtis, do you have anything else that you'd like to add to council before I entertain a motion and open it up for questions?
No, the only thing I'll add, maybe it would have been good, planning and zoning has worked on this since December 4th. So
Okay.
it's been quite a long process they worked.
Thank you very much. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance O 2025-005, amending Chapter 6, 8, 32, and 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited accessory buildings, all-weather surfaces and driveways, and regulate parking in residential zoning districts generally. This is a first reading. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Pete. Do we have a second? We have a second from Maggie. We are now open for discussion. Do we have any questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
On the Porticashire, I saw that you had rear and side setbacks. I also saw on the original page, you allowed them in all districts and all zoning. Was there any change in the front setback?
No, we're not proposing any changes in our front setbacks.
Okay, so so they have to maintain the structure within the setback. They just can't, even though they're allowed, they have to abide by the setbacks in the front.
I am pretty sure Porticashire and front porches can both penetrate the front.
Porticashires can penetrate the front.
We haven't
Setback.
changed anything in this version from when you were the chairman.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
They-
I remember
yeah.
having flashbacks.
So, so we did allow, was it 10% or something to go for the Porticashire? I can't remember.
It's 25 feet.
They're permitted.
Yeah,
I
ordinance is
don't know how
25 feet.
big they can be, but they are permitted. And
No,
this
I know
is-
they were
That's
permitted, I
existing.
just didn't know, because there was always a setback issue, and I know Mike Jansen, was always a proponent on that, and that's
Yeah.
just something that I just want to make sure that just didn't
Yes,
change.
Okay.
25 feet and is still preserved.
So, so one highlight of this, because burn me once, don't do it twice, is that a driveway can only extend to a garage, a carport, or the front door. So in other words, if you're coy, you can't say, well, I'm building a driveway to my right rear corner and then pave it all the way there, because it's not extending to a carport, a garage, or the front door. And then the front door was another addition, because a lot of people have circular driveways, and we want to allow that, and we don't want that to be called the all-weather surface, so that we're still allowing a driveway to your carport, I mean, or not your car, you could have a carport, but mostly your garage, or your accessory building, or your front door. So that was, I thought, pretty important.
Okay. I do have a question. When we talk about 3 inches, does that include the compacted base with the improved surface? Because bricks are 2 inches. Asphalt is generally going to be less than 3 inches of asphalt. Concrete's going to be 4 inches. Are we talking about the material plus the base? Or are we talking about the material? Because I don't think that works unless we're talking about including the base.
So that goes back to, we worked with Bruce Beeler, and it was 3 inches, and I believe that would be both whatever base improvement you have, if you do the sand, gravel, or whatever, and then you do your pad, or
Okay.
you do your brick. it'd
I
be
just
all
want to
of it
make
together.
sure that we have included the base in there because, the pavers are just, they're that thick, and that's not 3 inches.
Well, that's a good point. You can buy in Home Depot pavers that are 2.5 inches.
You can buy.
And you can put it on sand, and that wouldn't be compacted. But I think there's a catch-all that says, or building inspector approved.
Yes.
So there is a,
You just went from the page. You were on the correct page there.
right here,
The red highlight.
the
Whoever was doing
definition
that.
under the,
Yeah.
Yep, we have the 3 inches on that page.
okay.
But the
Weather
ma-
surface, it's item C. Yeah, it must be at least 3 inches in thickness after compaction. So I just want to make sure that the base is included in that because there are lots of perfectly acceptable materials. Going to the Gordo's house, their bricks they're this thick. They're 2.5-inch bricks. But they've got a compacted base that's 2 inches below that, and so it's almost 5 inches that's in there. Well, God bless them for putting that in. But I'm not looking for, I would not want to say that is not an acceptable driveway.
It is our understanding that includes the base, but we can make sure with Bruce Beeler and them that they would understand that as well, that we're including both of those.
Driveways are not included in this all-weather surface constraint. In other words, you're talking about the additional. We're talking about that 1,000 feet, that 12,000 feet. A driveway, you're right, you can asphalt it with 2 inches.
Yeah.
And that's going to be approved by the building official. But go back to that next page. Additional all-weather parking surfaces must be 3 inches. That's where you're going to park 2 cars or 3 cars in your backyard, I think. But we should go back and check that.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Next month,
because that was my only concern, and I apologize, I should have caught that when y'all let me read it the first time. Okay. Doesn't sound like we've got any more discussion. We've got a motion and a second, a motion by Pete, a second by Maggie to approve ordinance O 2025-005, amending chapter 6, 8, 32, and 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited accessory structures, all-weather surfaces, driveways, and regulate parking in residential zoning districts generally. As a first reading, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. This brings us to item 8.6. Curtis, you're still up. Discussion action, review results of 2025 garbage and recycling service survey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So if you recall, on January 27th this year, City Council meeting, Council directed staff to seek requests for bids for the refuse services, trash and recycling. And before embarking that, we issued a survey. We had 278 responses. This was between February 10th and April 21st. This is the most response we ever had on a survey. Our highest previous was 234, I think. And this was all done through SurveyMonkey. You probably saw it online. We were trying to push it a lot. I'll run through these relatively quickly. You have all the comments in your packet. I'll just mention, can't put all the comments on here. We had lots of them, hundreds of them throughout this, many of them that really expand upon the numbers I'll be going over. But just run through the numbers here. So in the first question we asked, give how many stars would you give public services and city at large, on your services you're receiving? And only, less than 2% gave it a 1 or 2. We got average 4.5, so pretty good on that. The next question we asked is the rank. People gave them 6 different services of this whole trash and recycling services. What's most important to you? What aspect of this? And residents could drag and drop it on SurveyMonkey. And the most frequent, number one, 47% of people put it as their number one, was frequent convenient pickup services. So if this bar chart looks weird, SurveyMonkey, everybody is putting them in order, and then it is using an algorithm to say, well, this many people put as 1, this many people as 2, so its cumulative score is this. And so the second, you can see then each one, the second most frequently highest rated quality customer service, my monthly cost, then recycling, bulk brush pickup, and yard waste. On question 5, we asked them, do you feel you get value for the cost of your service? And 89, almost 90% people responded to, I feel I get my money's worth for the services I received. And 10% said they thought they received poor services for the cost they pay. We asked residents if they were interested in a new organic yard waste pickup service that I think San Antonio has. Total 41% of the people said they might use a service of no additional cost. 24% of those people said I wouldn't use, or 24% people said I wouldn't use it at all. I'm not interested at all. And then there was mixed responses there. You can see 21 and 12% is if I do want the service, do I want it bi-weekly, do I prefer weekly pickup? We gave people a lot of options. There was a lot of comments under that, 51 people to expand on that. So a decent amount of interest in it. We asked residents if they could save some money by reducing garbage pickup to once a week, would they be interested? And 55.4% people said just no. And 25-ish% responded yes if my monthly cost could be reduced by approximately $3 to $5 a month. That's the number we got from Republic when we asked them. And only 10% said yes if my yard waste is picked up weekly. They would agree to it if they could get their yard waste picked up. And 71 comments on that question. We asked people on their brush bulk pickup services. Are we offering it enough, essentially? 55% of people said they were fine with our twice annual traditional brush bulk pickup. Only 15% of people wanted to see more of these services, even if their monthly costs increased. I want their service so bad, I'm willing to pay more for it. Whereas 19% said they want more of it, but we don't want to see our cost increase. And 10% reduce to once a year service to reduce my monthly cost. Save me money on this. Go ahead and reduce it. So, but the majority were no, they're fine with what we got. We asked residents if they were interested in smaller containers being offered by Republic, and 87.5% people said no when they were interested in smaller containers. We asked residents if they thought our recycling or the public services recycling program was effective. 78% of people said yes, they agree with it effective, and a lot of comments, 82 comments submitted on that. People really got to expand what they thought with that. We asked people what on household hazardous waste services. Overall, 60% of respondents said they wanted more HHW services, with 32% of that 60% wanting it grant funded. So we put in the question, hey, last time we did this, we had a grant. Do you want to see it even if it's from city funds? People will be able to nuance that. And then 16% said this isn't necessary, we don't need more HHW services. 22% people said they didn't know, had no opinion.
So clarify that, because it looks like it says 28% if the city pays for it, 32% said if it's only grant funded. So it's 60% overall would like it, but most of the people are looking for it if it's free. Is that right?
I would say a slight majority are interested in it.
Yeah,
but
60% want it, but 32, a plurality of those that said we'd want it are saying only if it's funded with a grant.
that is the highest selected choice, yes, most
Yeah.
frequent.
Okay,
90 people shows that.
yeah, okay.
And then finally, we have two open-ended comment boxes where we asked them what they liked most about the garbage recycling services. We had 211 on that one, and frequent mentions in there this is just a random collection of, from there you can see other comments, but frequent mentions were reliability, dependability, timeliness of pickup services, twice a week trash pickup services, people like that a lot, friendly drivers, customer service, all those were frequently mentioned in there. We had, when we asked people, what do you like least about your garbage recycling services, we had 180 comments there. A lot of them were NA, nothing, can't think of anything. But there were complaints about broken, worn out, down containers, not being replaced, rough handling by trucks breaking containers. There weren't enough of the various services we offered, so they would mention brush bulk pickup or household hazardous waste or organic yard pickup services, that there weren't enough of those services. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay. On the broken containers, we probably need to have something in the Roadrunner or an INFO that just says, guys, if you got a broken container, don't expect them to fix it, because the guys coming and going, they're going to come by and replace every one of those broken containers every single time. At least, I'm hoping y'all are having the same experience I'm having, that when they break, they fix them. Yeah.
My experience is when they break, they're not going to fix them until you call.
Exactly.
That's right.
But they're not,
Exactly.
they don't know what they don't know.
Right. Roadrunner,
Okay.
good idea.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Curtis, great project. Thank you for putting it
I
together.
have a
Bill, y'all did a
comment.
really great job. Maggie?
I have really had a chuckle since this survey went out when they asked about, would you like to add yard waste? And I was waiting to see what that came out as, because I have never seen so many black garbage bags out on the curb. I mean, and they don't pick them up. You know, if they put them in the can, that's fine, but, I mean, every street that I was on, not each and every one, but, I mean, it was like, somebody didn't understand the questions.
Well, Maggie, they actually do.
Yeah.
It's not being recycled, but they will take 4 bags every time of,
These are more than 4 bags.
no, but they will only take 4. They
But
won't
they will
take.
take
they-
out on the street?
They will take 4 bags on the street every single time.
You need to put that in your memo.
No, I don't know. I'd have to confirm that, but what I do know is
6.
it's the
Pete says
dynamics.
6.
It's the dynamics. What is it?
Yeah.
6 bags.
If it fits into your cart? Okay, got it, in addition to your cart.
Yeah.
So
No,
that,
it's great.
that's actually, we should advertise because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, here's the issue. If you're living in Bentley Manor, I'm gonna make a number up and I'll be wrong. 80% of those people have yard services and the yard service takes all the waste with them.
Yeah.
Or Huntington. If you're on Elm Spring or Mossy Cup, a lot of you guys are doing it all yourselves or somebody else is doing
Yeah.
it for you, and then you have that waste that has to
Put
be
it out.
deposited.
Well, they only pick up my bags on Monday, so they won't do it on Fridays.
Yeah. I think that's correct too. I think
Yeah.
it's just the first pickup of each week.
But it's
Yeah.
good to know. I didn't know that. San Antonio will not do that.
Yeah.
So, Curtis, on hazardous waste, I know San Antonio will accept hazardous waste, and so, or is it maybe the county does that? Is there options where we could be included if we paid money to them to be able to do that? My concern is on hazardous waste. If there's not an easy way to dispose of hazardous waste, people find other ways that aren't environmentally friendly.
You're correct. I believe there is a Bear County program where anybody, I think you have to take pictures and they send a box to your property and then you put stuff in the box and send it off. I believe Bear
Except-
County has
Do you know
that
if there's a
program.
cost for that?
I think it's free.
It's free, except that they're not doing it right now.
So Bear County changes the program based upon the funding that they have. So some years that they will provide hazardous waste disposal pickup to suburban cities, some years they won't. And it's kind of, so I contacted them to pick up our disposable waste and batteries for Arbor Earth Day. And they originally scheduled a pickup for 10 May, then they figured out it was the city, not a citizen. And so, so anyway, the idea is, I mean, somebody here could call them, I've got the flyer, and then we could test it out and see if they'll come to your house and pick it up.
Okay. You know,
Good we
several
had this
several
far.
things to make sure that we're communicating there. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on to 8.8?
So the issue, just get a confirmation, we're still gonna go out for requests for proposal for trash services, even though we have overwhelming support for Republic. And what that's going to do is it's going to, you know, we're gonna get updated proposals, and if we weigh the pros and cons of the cost, we will say, we went out for bid. And so it is what it is, because that's really what's caused this whole thing, is that we have that site, obviously a very small majority of people who are unhappy that are very vocal.
Minority. Very
Minority.
small
They're
minority.
unhappy but very vocal.
Okay. Okay, 8.8. Thank you, Curtis. Discussion, action, consideration of moving the May meeting. Bill, I don't think any of us want to meet on Memorial Day. I doubt that, you're probably going to be at the Bay House, actually. So
I will be.
Oh, man. Okay, and you're not going to invite us down there to attend with all the citizens of Chavano Park who want to attend the meeting that night?
They're garbage
Oh,
bags.
Okay, so we're looking at moving our regular May meeting. Does anybody have any objection to moving it to the third weekend in Monday, in May? Do we have a motion?
I so move.
Okay, Maggie has made a motion to reschedule the May 2025 regular city council meeting to Monday, May the 19th.
Second.
And Pete has seconded that. There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Item 8.9, discussion action, annual budget calendar. Brenda, come on down.
Oh.
Thank you, Mayor. City staff has drafted the fiscal year 26 budget calendar to allow council and staff to arrange their schedules for the required meetings over the next several months. Staff is requesting council consider the proposed budget meeting calendar and provide guidance. Specifically, please approve the dates for the first 2 budget workshops currently proposed for Wednesday, May 28th at 12 noon and Wednesday, June 18th at 12 noon. Prior to the first workshop, staff will present to council for consideration and discussion draft goals and objectives for the upcoming fiscal year. Those objectives identified as critical will be planned by staff to be fully funded in the budget. The funding of other objectives will be based upon the staff's ability to operate within the projected revenues. Therefore, certain planned objectives may be deferred to future budget years. This calendar provides for the City Council establishing overarching goals and objectives, as you have in the past. Typically, the 8 goals established in previous years do not significantly change, but the objectives do change as priorities and requirements evolve and other objectives are accomplished. This is an important element of guidance provided to staff for the entire year, but those objectives that require fiscal funding must be considered and included in the budget. Council assumptions developed early on assist staff in prioritizing and developing the budget. So staff intends to present the budget as early as possible, considering the certified tax rolls are not provided by Bear Appraisal District to the city until approximately July 25th, and the tax rate calculations are not provided until after that date. Presenting the record city manager budget is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, August 14th. Also, please note, the city manager will be out of town from July 23rd to July 27th, and the finance director will be out of the country from July 30th to August 10th.
Okay, thank you very much, Brenda.
I think we have one more slide.
No.
If we don't, it's in your staff summary then, okay.
Okay. Okay, before we entertain a motion for setting just the first 2 workshops, I'm going to ask everybody to review their calendars and make sure that, number one, Conrad's going to be available, but that everybody else is going to be available on May the 28th and June the 18th at noon. Lee? Buddy? Conrad?
May the 28th.
Yep.
Not May the 28th.
May the 28th, Wednesday. Wednesday the 28th
Okay, at noon.
at noon.
Okay.
And June the 18th at noon.
Okay. 18th clear, I can clear up May.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the budget calendar dates for the first 2 budget workshops on May the 28th and June the 18th?
So moved.
We have a motion from Pete. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Maggie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Okay. Item 810, discussion action, city manager annual performance and salary review, possible executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551074, personnel matters. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Like to
So
make
moved.
that- Second.
Okay, Pete has made a motion, Conrad has seconded the motion. It is now 8:48, and we are going into executive session. We're returning from executive session held pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551074, personnel manager, review city manager. No votes were taken, no decisions were made. Brings us to item number 9. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion from Lee. Do we have a
Second.
second? Conrad has seconded the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We are adjourned.